What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Lean and Lionhearted podcast. I am your host, AJ Quimson, IFBB Pro, and I'm here with my good friend, Ash, owner of Team Form Fit Coaching. How are you doing, my friend?
What's going on, guys? Ash, not IFBB Pro.
This is the second time we've recorded this intro because my screen freaked out, but we're going to jump straight into it, man. What was it like going to the Olympia and not just as a spectator, but as a coach to your significant other? What was that like?
Bro, I wish you would have given me like these questions ahead of time. That's a really good question, and that's a really good question right off the bat, because I'll be honest with you, I did not think that was the route that you were going. But for sure, not what I expected. I think like I always knew that like being a part of the Olympia would be great, but you know I've been competing or in the industry for at least 12 years, like through expos, LA Fit Expo, all that good stuff.
You're ancient.
And it definitely did not. It exceeded my expectations for sure, because you know, and I'm not going to put like one on the pedestal of like which is better, you know, being an athlete or being a coach at the Olympia. But being an athlete for so long, or you know, being an athlete longer than being a coach, I always felt like, okay, that was the end goal, you know. And clearly, I didn't make it there. I didn't even scratch the surface. But getting there as a coach, you realize how much smaller of a pool there is of coaches at the Olympia versus athletes. You know, you got 51 female competitors. There's not 51 female coaches. So I think once I got to that level, it was like, regardless of competing, coaching, or whatever, it was like I finally felt like, damn, I made it.
Okay. So you felt like when you got there, you felt like you made it, or were you still just like wrapped up in trying to coach Tara?
Oh, dude, it was like when I'm coaching Tara, it's like a whole different ball game, because like clearly she's my fiance. I want her to do well, but I also put that pressure on myself of like I've got to be perfect, because if I'm not perfect, then she's not 100%. And I think there's a ton of coaches in there, and I think it's something I need to probably start backing off doing, but not admitting where, you know, they kind of screw up. Where it's like with Tara, I don't want anyone to look at her like, oh, you know, she should have done this, or, you know, she was too flat, or she was too this. So I'm super quick to like put that blame on myself. So for sure, I mean, like going to the Meet the Athletes, it was dope. It was awesome. Like I was starstruck. I've never even been to a meet the Athletes before. I've been to the Olympia, but I've never been to like that meeting. So to kind of like see her like essentially on that same level as like Chris Bumstead was like, oh damn, like that was a level of pride for me in her and like her accomplishment. But I don't think I was able to like really be like prideful as a coach until after the dust settled. Because I mean, you know, everybody comes into the Olympia like, oh, it's your first Olympia, you know, don't, you know, whatever. Bro, we come in to compete every show. Like, I'm not putting Tara into a show like we're going to get last place and I'm okay because we're just here for the journey. Like, sure, you know, the journey is important, but like we compete to win. We don't compete for, you know, participation trophies. We don't like the difference between a $1,000 check for us and, you know, 500 in third place is a huge difference, you know? So, I think afterwards I was able to kind of feel accomplished and realize, okay, you know, you're top 50 coach in the world, even though there wasn't 50 coaches there. We landed in the middle of the pack. So I think once the show was over, and not even the first day, because the first day afterwards, I was like, man, I should have done this. She looked better a couple of days before. Like just started picking myself apart every which way. And I mean, I don't even know if that's like comparison, you know, but it definitely stole some of my joy afterwards in being able to like celebrate that not only my fiance but myself together as a team, we made it to the top of the sport, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's funny that you said that because when you're competing, you don't really think, I mean, there's pressure for you as the competitor. Obviously, it's your thing. But when you're the coach, when you really care, there's so much pressure that you put on yourself. I mean, if you care, obviously, that you're like staring at someone, you're like, dude, what am I seeing? Like it's like staring at the same thing over and over, just like looking for these really small changes, because the small differences are everything. And you're trying to gauge like, how do they feel? Can they digest more food? Are they getting close to their limit? Like, can they catch a pump, or is it just cold in this room? And like all these things are coming into play, and you have to be so in tune with someone's body to be able to really like peak it to 100%. And
For sure, dude. And, go ahead.
oh no, that was it.
And even like on top of that too is like sometimes, you know, as coaches we are looking for that super small detail, because super small details can really make a big difference in translation on stage. But also, as a coach and someone who really cares, we also kind of expect that there's going to be bigger changes that actually do happen. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this meal is going to be it. This is going to be the one that fills her out perfect. She's going to be full. She's going to be tight. She's going to be lean. And then you do get a minor change, but you still look at it like, huh, like, man. So I think kind of also eliminating that idea of like perfectionism is hard. It's really tough, but being able to celebrate like, okay, we gave, you know, 30 extra carbs and we got a little bit fuller, we got 1% fuller, heck yeah, you know, like be fired up. But a lot of times, you know, when I'm coaching and I want them to be 100%, I'm even the same way in the athlete. You know, everybody wants to be ready 6 months out, you know, and what matters is that 30 seconds or a minute that you're on stage. So even myself, sometimes I'm like, okay, I want them to be ready in the morning when they wake up, but it's like that's not always the best thing either, because then you've got to hold it. So I think sometimes, you know,
Yeah.
as the coach, it's like you said, we are looking for those very small changes, but sometimes they're right there in front of our eyes. But we want more or a bigger change to happen when it's sometimes it's just, you know, if the muscle's not there, it's not there. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough. That's super true. Like you want them to be ready early in a way because it makes you feel comfortable seeing them like at the peak. But actually holding the peak for
Mhm.
a lot of people is really tough because you're burning through food so fast, or sometimes you overfeed them and you give them a little bit too much, thinking that it's gonna hold them over, and then it just like tips them over the edge, or they just get super stressed out because they're on show day and whatever. And yeah, it's pretty tough to deal with. I can't imagine being at your first Olympia doing it and coaching your fiance. So it means probably just like a little bit more.
Dude, I mean, people ask me all the time, like, how is it coaching your significant other? And I'll tell you, if you have the chance as a coach, don't do it. Don't start it. Don't get into it. Don't even try it. Like, somebody told me a long time ago, like in snowboarding, never teach your significant other how to snowboard. Pay for the lessons. Just pay for the lessons. You're better off doing it, because you're going to try to teach her and she's going to fall. She's going to yell at you. You're the asshole and you don't understand. You know, her toe keeps, you know, whatever. So I tell people, if you can avoid it, just avoid it. But me and Tara, we're way too deep into this. But it comes down to where it's like, I have to wear like 7 different hats, you know, like she doesn't always finish her meals all the time. And I'm like, hey, you got to finish your meal. You got to finish your meal. She wants to basically slap me. And then 3 seconds later, I'd be like, hey babe, I love you. What do you want to do tonight? Or whatever, you know? It's hard, dude. It's really hard, but just even like, like you say, trying to hold that look. I think Tara was like perfect, honestly, like Tuesday, where she was looking like glutes were full, waist was tight, everything like that. And then just, you know, trying to not even hold it, but chase like a more perfection. It
Yeah.
just like, and this is again, me, you know, over evaluating myself when it's like, bro, she still landed right around 30th place. You know, yeah, they don't place
Yeah.
after 16th people, but 30th place at your first Olympia, like, dude, that's still like, you know,
Yeah, it's funny. It's like that age old thing. It's like, do I try to get 5% better at a risk of maybe getting 10% worse? And it's always like a gamble. But it's funny that you brought up coaching your significant other, because that was my next question. What has it been like for you? Because I have my own stories coaching Mary for a little bit. But what's it been like for you the whole journey?
man, I don't know how much time we have here today, but I'll get into like how it kind of started. It literally started with her, like she never wanted to compete. When she met me, she'd been powerlifting with her ex at the time. Um, and well, actually we met and she was still living with her ex, but we'll talk about that another day. She
Same.
was still powerlifting. Yeah. Mr. Steal Your Girl.
I didn't
But
though.
yeah,
I
she was
didn't though.
powerlifting. So she kind of had that base, you know? And
Yeah.
at the time, you know, we're hanging around bodybuilding shows and stuff, and you know, a lot of my friends, Gil, he was like, "Dude, why don't you compete? Why don't you compete?" And she's like, "Dude, I don't want to. I have no desire to do that. Absolutely no desire." And then the closer it got to like my first show, she was like, how come when you're like low carb that you kind of turn into an asshole? And like just being an asshole, I'm like, why don't you try it and find out? Literally just being an asshole. She comes in
Yeah.
first place at her first show. 3 weeks later, gets her pro card or whatever. I didn't expect for that to be the journey. You know, I expected she was going to do a show, maybe try USA's, and then that was going to be it. You know, not that I didn't believe in her, but just the way that it all kind of fell into place. I didn't expect that this was going to be a lifelong thing. You know, even after she got her pro card, I was like, oh, let's do a show together. And even then, I still don't think I thought that it was going to like go super far, even though I knew she'd been dominating. And at that show, I was still coaching myself with the help of Gil. Gil was still in my corner. But I won the overall at the show, and she got like 11th place. And that was the third show that she had done. And going from 2 first places to an 11th, she freaking, was like pretty much off the rails that night. We were in Vegas. We went out. She got pretty drunk. I mean, we both got drunk, but it was definitely something where she was super upset about. So we didn't see it as being something that was going to be, this long term thing. Like let's just try it and figure it out. And then the next, fast forward to the next show. So in the beginning, it was pretty easy because I don't want to say I didn't care, but I also, she was my first athlete that I coached. So I didn't really I wasn't confident that like I was going to be able to bring her in at her best, or that I would even really know what I was doing, to be honest. I mean, I was doing a lot of the same stuff that I was doing with myself. Oh, you're flat, go have a in and out. Oh, you're flat, go have a donut before you work out or something. Kind of just like figuring it out on the fly. So I guess I didn't really see it as being something serious. And then it was her third pro show, which I don't know if it's still the biggest pro show ever in history. But at the time, it was the biggest pro show ever, and she got fifth. And we kind of thought at that point, we're like, all right, there's something to be had here. We got to keep going with this. I will say there's been a ton of times where like I've had to push her into the gym to the point where she's literally crying, like in the middle of her performing her sets. There's been times where like, and granted, she hates when I say this. She never has to do a ton of cardio, but when someone's low body fat, they're still suffering whether they're doing 30 minutes or 2 hours. It still sucks. And, there'd be times where she doesn't want to do her 30 minutes of cardio and I'm standing behind the Stairmaster, like, take your hands off of the things, so maybe it was me like over micromanaging her prep is that kind of led it to be so like, I guess, draining on the relationship. Maybe if I just let her make the mistakes, like, okay, well, skip your cardio or do cardio with no hands or skip your meals, let her made those mistakes on her own. Maybe it would have been better for us. But instead, I so badly, one, wanted her to win, but I also didn't want to see her lose. Like a big part of it is, our significant others. We don't want to see them sad. We don't want to see them lose. We don't want to see them hurt. And being a coach, we can only do so much on show day to get them ready. There's no perfect game plan to peak somebody. Otherwise, everybody would be in shape no matter what. So, kind of constantly like putting that pressure on myself to make sure that she wasn't like upset or sad or whatever. I had to learn that eventually there's going to be things that don't go her way and I can't fix it. She's got to learn how to sit with those emotions and deal with them. I'd say the place that we're in now, as far as like the coach client relationship, is very much so in a place where like I kind of just let her be, and I'll say, hey, well, if you got to understand, Laura Lee's eating, doing that, or Jen Dory's doing that, and I'll walk away from the situation at that. Let her make that decision. She's a badass. I'll say it, till the cows come home. So when I put it like that to her, like, okay, well, if you're not willing to do it, somebody else will. She does it right away. But when I'm like, you need to eat your meal, being, helicopter dad about it, she's like, dude, fuck this guy, I'm going to take an hour to eat this meal now. But the second that I throw out, oh, well, Jen, that, and I'll even throw out things from other coaches. Cause like when I ask her to do her progress photos, she doesn't want to put her bikini on. She thinks she can like just do it naked and I can still look at her the same way. I'm like, babe, it doesn't work that way. You got to have the suit on, you got to have the cut on. And whenever she gets frustrated in those moments, now rather than me being like, you have to do this, I'm like, well, Ariel would have you do this. If you worked with Atlas team, James, he would have you do this. She remembers when I was competing at nationals last year, everybody who works with Ariel knows that he freaking has the craziest wanting to have you do photos. She was having to lay down in the elevator so I could stand outside the elevator for the natural lighting to take the photos and then send them to him, wait till he saw them to say if it was good or not. So it got to a point where I'd be like, hey, I mean, if you're working with Ariel, he would do this. So it was kind of a long road of learning like what to be helicopter dad about and what not to be helicopter dad about. At the end of the day, she knows what she should be doing, and I don't need to like stand over her, you know. And I'll admit, it still happens, you know. I that still comes out in me, but it's been a long road of figuring out, um, I guess, how to deliver the criticism, when to deliver the criticism, but most importantly, knowing when to even just throw the coaching hat off and just be fiance for like 5 minutes if I have to. You know what I mean? So it's definitely it's been super hard. It's gotten a lot better now because I think we both have a very common goal. And I've asked her, you know, she wants to win the Olympia one day, and I believe that she can. So we both know that it's going to require a ton of sacrifice. It's probably going to require a ton of us, you know, having, you know, feuds or arguments or whatever it may be. But we both know at the end of the day that that goal, until we decide, you know, on December 31st, when we do our goal setting, that hey, this is no longer in the plans for us. Like we're both fully bought into that, and that's, you know, object number one in everything that we're doing right now. So I think once we got on the same page, it was a little bit better. Um, and also, you know, kind of making time and reminding yourself like, bro, we live together. You know, you do as well with Mary, but we live together, we train together, we do everything together. But the one thing that we kind of stopped doing, I guess, mid relationship is we stopped dating each other. You know, we stopped making the time to like go out to even go have ceviche, go out to have a steak at Outback, um, put our phones away for 20, 30 minutes. You know, we kind of lost that element in being so caught up with like the hustle grind, the daily, you know, whatever. And maybe that's what was starting to eat at both of us. And once we kind of started to, and we still struggle, you know, every couple still does, and trying to find that perfect balance. But I think once we were able to kind of implement like, hey, this is important that we need to do this every week, that things got a little bit for sure better. But as far as like our relationship goes at this point, I would definitely say we're in the best spot that we've ever been. And maybe that's her coming into being confident as herself and as a competitor. Maybe me becoming more confident as a man, as a provider. You know, I've talked to you a lot. You know, obviously not on this podcast, but I talked to you a lot in the past when I was kind of struggling coming up as a coach and trying to figure out, you know, where my place was, what I should be charging, and all that stuff. And maybe it was getting Kyla her pro card. Maybe it was getting Tara to the Olympia, but something happened in between that time where I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I think once I kind of became confident in myself as a man, maybe I was able to approach coaching her a little bit differently rather than being insecure about, you know, being at the shows or being a small team.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's interesting hearing your perspective on coaching significant other, because people would probably think that you guys would be like, oh, it's a great thing. But I mean, I've tried coaching Mary before. It did not go so well the first time. I mean, when we first started dating, she was with the team and she told me what they were doing. And I was like, that's so dumb. Don't do that. You know, I was like, leave that guy. And it's very different. It's this, I call it like a bodybuilding coach's mentality. Like if your coach is a active bodybuilder, they're very much, and they take it seriously, which they probably should, you know, they're going to be like, well, I do it, why don't you do this? It's not that hard. And in a lot of ways, a male bodybuilder has very different motivation or triggers that get them going, right? Like guys like to be yelled at, like don't be a pussy, you know, lift that shit, whatever, yell at them. And girls, they respond way better to positive reinforcement. If you're trying to be like, if you try and yell at them like, just do it, they're gonna be like, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, I'm just gonna put the weight down. And then all of a sudden you're the asshole. Versus like what they really need is if you just sit there and they're struggling and you're like, no, you could do it. You do one more. You got it. You got this. Then they're like, yeah, I do got this. And then they go and they do it. And it's just this weird switch that you have to have, especially when you're trying to be a current bodybuilder, like an active bodybuilder yourself, because your mentality is so different. And then to try and switch that in the middle of training, because you're probably training together, it's pretty difficult. So the first time that when we first met, I was coaching her maybe for like 3 weeks, and we just kept going at it in the gym. And I was like, you know what? just go to Andrew. I don't want to deal with this. And Andrew Wu ended up coaching her for that. What was
I
that?
tried. I one day I was like, dude, go work with James. Go to Team Atlas. Go work with him. And she's like, I'm not. Like she wouldn't.
Yeah.
Bro. I literally I was like, go. Like at the time it was a little different. I was like, I was frustrated one, but also I didn't feel like I was going to be able to get her to that level. So I was like, just go. You know. And I think it's funny that you do bring up like that belief, because I do think that that's super huge in coaching women. Whereas to like guys, we want to know that someone believes in us too, but also like you know we want to be pushed a little bit harder. And when you bring up training with a significant other, it's like I'll be yelling at her like, come on, fucking one more rep. And then when it comes to my set and it's like I got to do one more rep, she's like, come on, baby, you can do this. One more rep. I love you. I'm like,
Yeah, it doesn't
there goes the
exactly bring the aggressiveness out of you.
there goes the weights.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
But no,
funny. I
yeah, I think
mean,
go
oh
for it.
what? Oh, I
No,
was
no,
just
okay.
say it didn't work out the first time that we go. So I had her go to Andrew, and then a few years later during COVID, we had nothing else to do other than go to the gym. So I was coaching like her and this our friend Helen and Drew, and we all went to Texas to go compete and stuff. And when I coached her that time, she was just zoned in because we only had like one shot to make the show happen. Dude, she had to lose like 34 pounds in 14 weeks. Highly do not recommend that. We pulled it off, but like I'm sure you understand, like when you're in coach mode and you're like, I need you to like progress like this. And it got to the point where I could guess to the decimal point how much weight she would lose based on how many hours she slept. And but it was just like watching her suffer and having to make her do some of the things I had to make her do, like, this much cardio, this much hit, like, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. And then like just watching her suffer, she didn't really complain. I mean, she was eating like a pound of asparagus like every meal, but it's like it was tough, like, because you want to be the significant other. Like, we got married in the middle of that prep, actually. I was trying to be a good husband, but at the same time, I was like, you got to do this or else it's not going to be you're not going to look good. And it's tough to find that balance of like when to do what. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, for sure. I mean, the good thing that we have going with Tara is like she's like, I don't have to say that, she can say it herself. She's not really like a food driven person. It's like when it comes down to like forcing her to suffer, it's I gotta force her to eat the food. Like even if it's like 4 ounces of chicken and a freaking salad, like nothing on the plate. Like I still have to force her, to put that food down. Which is it's a struggle in itself. But I think the hardest thing, like you mentioned, is forcing them to suffer when I don't know how in your guys' relationship how it is, but I try to do my best to not see her suffer, and
Yeah.
then to purposely force her to suffer and have to watch
Yeah.
her suffer and make her not stop from suffering is, dude, it's brutal. It's really brutal. But then when it comes down to like seeing the confidence that she has on stage, I know it means a lot to her when people message her and say that she looks amazing. I know that it means a lot to her when people tell her that she's goals, and she has so much support from the pro league. It's insane, dude. Like I don't know if guys are the same way, but the amount of women that support her that should probably look at her as a threat, it's crazy. Like I mean, Jess Wilson's supportive of everybody, but we're from the same city, we're from the same area. Like everything on paper should be like they should be catty towards each other, but they are literally. I mean, Jess is the sweetest person to anyone. I don't think she has an enemy in the world, but just that like support that she has through the I guess the sisterhood. I know that means a lot to her, and I know that she knows in that moment I'm only doing those things so she can continue to experience that. But it does not make it any easier.
Yeah. It's definitely tough because I'm a big softie. So like I always try to make sure that I do everything that I can to make Mary's life easier. And then when you're the one that's like, okay, you can't eat, you can't do this, you can't have fun, you just have to spend your day doing cardio. It's horrible. But
Are you
I mean,
staying up?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, dude, at that time, we were out, we were so tired. But, I'm sure it's like it's a little bit easier for you guys knowing that there's, like, this huge overall goal that you're both shooting for, and I think that
Mm.
I mean it's kinda like prep in a way, right? Like, you know it's gonna suck. That's what you signed up for, but at the end of the day, you know that it's gonna be super rewarding when it's all over, and I think that you guys are in that period where you're like, you know it's gonna suck, but there's gonna be, like, some high moments, some low moments, and it'll be worth it in the end.
Well, dude, we struggled for so long financially. Like money was a big thing for us. Like I've made a lot of bad decisions myself, and I own up to them. I think those decisions have ultimately led me to who I am and where I am today. But we struggled for so long that, last year we were doing good, but this year we started doing, for our standards, really well. So this, what she has going, a lot of it's like I said, and you mentioned too, it's a common goal now. Whereas to before it was like shut up and suffer, endure the pain. Now it's like we're doing this and we're doing this together in order to get to here, like this, there's no forever future in bodybuilding. So you got to do something to set yourself up. Out of the I would never want a pro to do 8 shows in a year. And she did eight shows this year, and every single show it was like new clients, new clients, new clients, new clients. Getting to the point now where like I love it because I only need to create content to provide free value, but I don't necessarily need it to like draw in leads. But I like giving the free value. I like providing the free value because I mean ultimately like dude, the people that really do support my page that don't pay me, don't buy my stuff are the reason why I believe where I'm at, like that same, there's that joke where it's like the same 30 people only like my photos and nobody comments or nobody DMs. But dude, those 30 people, like I know for a fact that those people are always going to be showing me some love. And if I can pull another 30 or 60, whatever more likes and get to the triple digits, I'm in a good spot, and I mean, ultimately, just staying, relevant for long term is going to be what, keeps, the success there. But, yeah, man, I think that now that it's become this like, all right, this is our future. This is, yeah, it is a hobby for sure. But now it's like, even when she wins shows, there's not much money coming from it, but there's something coming back. Dude, I mean, the Atlanta show she won, it was a $2,500 check, but that didn't even cover the Airbnb and the flights out there. But the residual that I had come out after that, was I had to
Yeah.
turn off my application. It's a good, I love what I'm doing, and that's something I'll never complain about. And I know what I can handle and I know what I can't handle. Remember when I first started, I don't know if you remember it, but I got a bunch of clients at once and I couldn't handle it. And I was like, dude, hit up these other coaches. And I tagged you in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, dude, I can't do this, but now I got a pretty good idea of what I can handle. And I guess an idea of like what, like this is actually as a business, and I mean, a lot of that, comes to, I do credit you for a lot of that stuff. I know we were pretty intoxicated on Super Bowl, but a lot of those, suggestions that you had given me, and even like that day at lunch in Austin, where you're like, dude, you're way too cheap, and I didn't even see my value at that point, but it was what about I think a little over a year ago, and I was charging like $99 a month for coaching. Like, I mean, with how much I put into it, I wasn't even making $10 an hour at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's like it's all the same growing pains, like, and a lot of it just revolves around like your self belief, and obviously you have to be like good at what you're doing, but the self belief that you can build this coaching business and you're worth it, or the self belief that you and Tara are moving towards something that has a greater purpose and it's going to get something back. Because like in the beginning, when you first started, I'm sure you're just like, this is the hobby and it's like a thing that we're doing, but you didn't really see how something really fruitful other than a couple medals was going to come out of it. And then once you saw that, now you both have that vision, like I can see where this is going and I've gotten some positive feedback that it is or it can go somewhere. So now we can just shoot for that and be a little bit more comfortable knowing that something is on the way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the biggest thing that you did hit on it was self belief. It wasn't in that time. I still didn't think that I was going to be like a coach and be a coach. I was living in that such a scarcity mindset. Like when's the next lead coming in? When's this coming in? When's that coming in? When am I going to post this special, that special, this challenge, like all these things. But I think even something that I'm sure you can agree with this. I think even our clients in general, once you start to actually believe in yourself, like even if it's just a little bit, things start to become a lot easier, and you start to find a lot more reasons of things that you should or could be doing, opposed to I don't have this, or I'm a little coach, I don't have very many pros, I don't have very much experience, all these different things that I was convincing myself every day I wasn't good enough. Same thing with our clients of, oh well, I got this many kids, I don't have a gym membership, or whatever it may be. And at the end of the day, it's just, people talk about it all the time, but it's just these self-limiting beliefs that we impose on ourselves. And I think once, like you said, I was able to maybe draw from, somebody like you or someone like Gil or other coaches talking to me, through that support from the peers, I was able to start, believing in myself. And I mean, it does help when you qualify an athlete for the Olympia, but just
Yeah.
in that sense to say like, this is where not only like this is where I want to be, like this is where I'm supposed to be. Like I shouldn't be
Yeah.
anywhere else. Like even right now, right here,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I mean that's pretty much the same thing I had when I was like I I didn't go full in on coaching for a long time, even though I liked it and I knew that originally it was my purpose because I was like comparing myself to, Ariel or Andrew or, all the top coaches. I was like, I'm not them, you know? And then along the way, someone just gives you that little bit of self-belief, like you can do it. And you're like, oh, well, if you believe that I could do it, maybe I can. And I kind of relate that back to my coaching because there's a lot of instances along my bodybuilding journey and all that stuff where all I needed was just one person to say, like, you could do it. And when you respect them enough, it gives them that kind of belief in themselves, or, it gave me the belief in myself. And I know that when I do that for other people, like my clients or, whoever else that I'm talking to, if you could just be that one person that gives them that little nugget of, I believe in you, so you should believe in yourself too, that can change like their whole life. And I think that that gave me more of a sense of value in my coaching and just thinking, in the beginning, I didn't need, um, I didn't need like the craziest person. I didn't need The Rock to be like, no, dude, you're fucking swole. Right. I just needed someone to give me that self belief in myself. And, sometimes it's your coach, sometimes it's your significant other. And it's just like, if you can do that and you can be that for somebody, then the value is there. Because if you're going to help them achieve that goal and you make them believe in themselves, that's really what it comes down to. Because the reason that most people
facts.
don't follow their plan is just because they don't have the confidence that the plan is going to work. That's why researching on your own doesn't really do a whole lot, because you can research until, forever. But at the end of the day, no matter how much you researched, if you're inexperienced, you know that you don't know for sure if this is going to work for you. And so it becomes very easy to convince yourself not to do it. And so that's kind of a huge benefit of having a coach, is you're putting your faith in their experience, so you can go through less trial and error and just build off of that confidence that you think that they know the right thing to do, and take it out of your hands, like for bodybuilding, for business, for anything. And just being able to have that confidence that your plan has an end goal and someone knows that it's going to go where it's supposed to go, just helps calm you down and allows you to just follow the plan and not, self-sabotage yourself.
I mean, even something that I kind of just like thought about, I believe I agree with everything that you said, and I tell my clients that, especially on like the first call, I tell them I can give you the perfect diet, the perfect program, but if you don't believe in it, or you don't believe in me or whatever, you're not going to get anywhere. And it's funny that, because you said something about, doing all this research ourselves. I couldn't tell you how many times I've tried things on myself that I've researched, but I didn't necessarily really like, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? But adding in that, like, I guess that placebo of believing that Ariel's plan is going to work for me, maybe my body fired 10 times better just believing in that person that I was getting my information from, opposed to, the random, no offense to the science dorks that have the education, but that guy on the internet saying that this is what's optimal. And something else, that you touched on is, and I say this all the time, a big reason why I never quit or or stopped going with coaching, even if I was half in or half out, was because of all those times when I would tell Tara to go find another coach and she was like, no, no, no. Like, her belief in me was enough for me to keep going. Like, the fact that I knew that she could have gone to any other coach, like that first show that, or that first show that she had placed at, the one that was 50 plus competitors, all these other competitors are coming in with their, T-Moto jumpsuits. They have like these nice rolly backpacks. Everybody's like in unison, bro. And we literally walked in with a freaking trash bag with her meals in it, like a freaking Albertsons bag with her meals in it. She had like a mismatched shirt, which, like, dude, we literally looked like we probably were homeless or something at that point, And we were sitting at check-ins, and I'm not going to say whose husband it was, but I was sitting with two husbands in the lobby, and they started asking me like who I am, whatever. I told them, this, I coach my fiance, blah 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 blah, and they're like, well, if she doesn't do well, it's okay, it's a big show. And that in that moment right there, that's when I was like, fuck these motherfuckers. I'm going to show them how badass my girl is. It wasn't even about me at that time. It was like, I'm going to show you guys how bad that my girl's going to come in here, not even a year into competing, and she's going to smoke everybody here. And one of those husbands was an Olympian. His wife was an Olympian, and we beat them at that show. And at that time, I didn't know that you really shouldn't be too loud in the stands. And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, like screaming my ass off for her when she got called into first call outs. And I look over to both of those husbands, and they were just, looking down at the ground, not wanting to kind of give me my props. But I remembered at that moment that, her walking into that expo hall, or her walking into the Sheraton in LA, even being in that mismatched clothing and having a grocery bag, she felt so confident standing next to me that she was going to be a killer on stage, that little bit right there, and then that experience that we went through, I was like, nope, at this point, now I'm just, at that point, it was like, I'm going to do it just to show you guys. Like, this is literally just going to be me being angry, and we're going to compete every show until we get this shit right. And then through those times of like trying to get rid of, say, hey, go work with this coach, or do this or do that, of her wanting to stick with me, that belief that she had in me was enough for me to keep going, even when I didn't think that we were going to win. Because I'll be honest, the show before she qualified for the Olympia, we got fifth, and that was the worst placing that she had all season. Yeah, fifth at the pro show, that's bad, right? But she'd been
Oh
getting
yeah, that's the
third,
one I was at.
seconds. Yeah, we were right on the cusp, and she got fifth. And I'm like, man, that was close, but we thought about shutting it down. And she was like, well, whatever you think I should do. And I'm like, you know what? Let's run it back. I believe in you. Let's go. Let's do this again. And sure enough, we went home for a day, 2 days maybe. We packed our stuff. We went to Atlanta, and it wasn't an easy week either. I lost my wallet in Atlanta. I lost my ID. She had her period the night before the show. Like, everything that possibly could have gone wrong on that trip ended up going wrong. And she was called out in center. She held it down, and it was a group of competitors that had all been right there fighting for, a first place spot. So she definitely, earned it. But like I said, that belief that she had in me, even up until, maybe times where I didn't believe in myself, that was the reason that, I think not many guys talk about this, but we do have this pressure of providing, for our significant others. So when things aren't going right, it's tough for us, and knock on wood, I've never had any crazy thoughts to, like, that I didn't want to be alive, but I know that there's a lot of guys out there that do go through that feeling, and just the fact that she believed in me and what I was doing was enough for me every single day to be like, put your fucking shoes on. Let's go. Get the fuck up. Like, whatever you got to do. I don't care how uncomfortable I am. I don't care how bad this sucks. I don't care how bad you hate sending out cold DMs. Do it for her. Like, the fact that she's believed in you this long, like, keep doing it for her to show her that that belief was not, like, wasted.
Dude, I can totally relate to that. It's yeah, man. I mean, there is a lot of pressure to feel like you can provide, and if you are not the breadwinner, for a lot of guys, you feel like you're not really doing anything. You're not really enough. And when Mary and I lived in San Diego, there was a period where, like, I didn't really have like a job, and then I ended up working at Hardcore Fitness in San Diego, and I was just doing group classes. And I remember they asked me if I wanted insurance, and I was like, yeah, I'll get insurance for me and her. And then after an entire month of working, you know, from 6 in the morning to 9 in the morning, and then going to train myself because I competed 6 times that year, and then coming back at night to train again. So basically, I never saw her. My check was $300 for the whole month, and I was like, "This is not going to work out." And I remember I was so stressed out. I was like, "I have no idea what I'm going to do." I put everything I had into bodybuilding, and I obviously don't have a whole lot for it. I mean, I went to a good school. I was like, I could just give up and get a normal job, but she was the one that just said, "Why don't you just be a coach? Just do it." And I remember I was talking to a business coach at the time, and I definitely couldn't afford it. And I had to text her on the side, and I was like, "Hey, they want this much. I don't have that in my bank. That's like more than double what I have in my bank account." And she was like, "You should do it. I think you could do it." And I was like, "Okay, well." I wasn't going to do it. I was just telling her as out of courtesy so that she could say no, and then I could say no too, and then we wouldn't have to spend the money. And just because she said no, you can do it, I did. And then that was the one thing that like changed our lives, to be able to do everything that we do now. So I totally
Bro, I
relate.
have the
Like
exact same scenario with me. Literally this year, actually, and I told you about this. It was in January where I had the slowest month that I had, and obviously that's coming off of competing in November. So I wasn't doing much for my business. You know, I was just doing the bare minimum. And I thought about getting a job at the YMCA as a freaking front desk person because I made like $1,700 in the month of January. And I remember looking at her and I'm like, babe, like I really don't know what to do. There's this guy that I've been seeing his business coaching come up. I don't want to plug him in because he hasn't given me any money. So, and I was like, hey, you know, this is what he charges. You know, at the time it was $500 a month, which wasn't, you know, nothing crazy, but I didn't have, you know, 200, 50 cents, you know, a month extra to put in. And I remember I told her and she was like, I think you should, same scenario. She's like, I think you should do it. And so I messaged him back. I was like, hey bro, I'm a little bit short. I had like $380 at the time in our joint account, not even my personal account, our joint account. And he was like, well, what can you afford? And I'm like, well, I got about 350 bucks in my account. I didn't want to tell him 380. I got 350 bucks in my account right now. My fiance has dealt with a lot of struggle with me through competing. So it's really unfair if I use this last $350 that we have when she should be getting her lashes done next week. And he sends me a message, and I don't know if it was because he believed in me, or she believed in me, but he was like, "Hey, bro, put it this way: if you buy my coaching and within the first 2 months you don't make your money back, oh, I'll knock it down to 350 a month from 500. I'll knock it down to 350 a month. If you don't make your money back in the first 2 months, I'll give you your money back. I'll buy your girl lashes, plus I'll send you 200 bucks to go out to dinner." To me, it wasn't even the fact that he said all of that, like that was like a belief in me. To me, I was like, damn, bro, I can't afford to get my girl fucking lashes and a steak dinner. Like, so I don't even know if it was necessarily him or her believing in me or just me realizing that I can't even buy my girl a steak dinner and I'm 34 years old and I've been bodybuilding for 10 years and putting all of this money into the, like, what is really going on, bro? And granted, I made close to six figures the year before, but towards the end of the year, I stopped trying, whatever, you know, not really putting in that effort. And once I, you know, made that initial investment, the first month my investment paid off like literally 10x. So like for the entire year, the first month had paid itself off. But um, yeah, I mean, just coming back to like you said, that belief that they had, it's like we're looking at them in that moment where we're like, hey, it's going to cost this much money. I don't know if I should. They're like, go do it, you know. And it's like you kind of are like looking at them like, are you like, no offense, are you stupid? Like this is a horrible idea, you know. We
yeah.
can't see that vision that they see for us, you know. And I think even it's the same thing with our clients, you know, when they come to us and they're like, I don't know, I'm going to be right. I'm like, dude, just chill, stick to the program, because we see the vision, you know. But it just goes to show that, you know, you ask about how it is coaching my significant other, and I guess now that I'm talking about it, maybe it's not that bad, you know. Maybe we did have to go through all of those struggles because those were, you know, whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever it is, those struggles were the test to see, do you deserve to be on the Olympia stage? Do you deserve to be a coach at the Olympia where it's the highest level where, you know, you are representing the sport, you're representing the brand of the IFBB, you know, there's so much that you're representing. Are you ready to be in that position yet? So maybe I had to go through all of that deal with the forcing her to cry and making her eat all this crazy random food and doing all this stuff to get where we had to go, and just be able to see that she believes in me. And for that, I could never stop trying.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like we said earlier, like when you have someone that just has this supreme confidence in you, like when they say it in a way where they sounds like it's dumb that you would even question yourself, then you start questioning yourself. You're like, why don't I believe in myself as much as they believe in me? And I think that can come from the
Yeah.
coach or them. Also, it might just be that they like to spend money, so they were like, fuck it, go do it. Like I know Tara buys pillows. Mary likes to buy a lot of stuff, so they're a little bit more spend happy than. Well, I mean, she's more spend happy than I am. But so I was like, maybe it's that, or maybe she believes in me. I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah, I
just
mean, after the first year, I was like, "Hey, babe, I'm thinking." I'll say this guy's name. I was like, "Hey, babe, now that my year is up with the other guy, I was thinking about investing in this Andy Elliott guy. He's like pretty savage with like his approach and his sales. I really like him." And like
mm,
now she's just like, "Do whatever you want to do," like
oh yeah,
when,
that's
when
exactly
she
what she's
saw
like.
yeah, when she saw what came out of the first one, and she's like, I already believed in you then, and now I know that with this new skill set that you have, like she's probably thinking like, dude, go ahead, I can retire in the next year if you keep doing this.
Yeah, that's basically what it was like. Like Mary doesn't ask me about how much I spend on coaching for myself, and it's like it's a pretty fair amount, you know. But yeah, it's just like that positive feedback. Once you see that it works, you're like, all right, well, I just need to keep finding things that work that take everything to the next level, and how can I just keep being better and better and better? Um,
Mhm.
so I have a question for you. Why did you decide to focus on coaching women?
That's a good one, dude. And it was the coaching group. So they told me that I had to double down on a niche, and they
Mm,
said that if you try to talk to everybody, I'm giving away some of their info, but I don't care or whatever. I didn't sign an NDA.
yeah,
They said if you try to talk to everybody on social media, you'll end up
you
talking
talk
to
to
nobody.
nobody.
And
Yeah, that's
yeah,
basically
exactly. And that ended up sticking with me. And I was like, okay. So I had to ask myself, who is my main group right now? And last year was all lifestyle clients. So at the time, I literally had just busy moms. That was who I was working with, and I thought it was corny. I didn't even really fully buy into it at first, but I will say that by coaching moms, I started to realize how much I was able to learn from them, even just about being like grateful for certain situations and being happy that you were able to just get a 30-minute walk in and not be upset that I didn't get to train for 2 hours and do six whatever meals or whatever. Um, but also seeing their gratitude for really changing their life, because I don't think when I first got into coaching I looked at it like I'm going to change people's lives. I looked at it like I'm going to get people shredded. I'm going to get people jacked. It wasn't. I didn't really realize what it could do for somebody because I didn't get into competing because I was insecure. So a lot of people do, which is I think is awesome. But I did not start competing because I didn't like myself or because I wasn't getting attention from people. That was completely opposite for me. I just wanted to get back into a sport of something. I wanted to add that like competitive element back into my life. Um, so by coaching the women, I was really starting to kind of see like that gratitude for them changing their lives, and that was already kind of my big area. So when I joined that coaching group, they said, "Who do you want to coach?" And I didn't even know who I wanted to coach, but I did start to realize over the last year that the guys that I was trying to coach were very stubborn. They wanted to do their own thing. I felt like they were constantly trying to like assume they knew better than me, um, or just not owning up to their shit. Going out and drinking on the weekend and being like, I was pretty good this weekend. So what was pretty good? Well, I went to the gym Saturday morning, and then okay, we went to brunch and we had cocktails, and I didn't eat, and then I ended up getting a bag in the bathroom and was up till 4 in the morning. Like, dude, no, that's not pretty good. And most guys, I mean, maybe the guys that I was coaching, they didn't like being told that. They didn't like being told like that's not good enough. But for some reason, when I was talking to these women and I would say, hey, you said that your goal was to reach 20 pounds. You told me that you could work out 3 days a week and not drink on the weekends. You're not working out at all and you're drinking on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. what's going on? Why aren't you sticking to your commitments to yourself? And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, and they got on board. But I realized really early on that women were a lot more receptive to my coaching. And maybe that's because I have a little bit of a talent in making people believe in themselves. And women, like we were saying earlier, women, maybe the way that I speak to people or interact with people, it's a lot more receptive for women as opposed to men. Maybe men are like, dude, this guy's kind of a fucking pussy. He's not telling me to shut the fuck up and go do my cardio. He's telling me like, all right, yeah, bro, go ahead, get back on it or whatever. So I didn't really choose coaching women. Women kind of chose me as the coach. And then once Kyla got her pro card, um, I think everyone had always kind of been like looking like, okay, Tara and Ash, yeah, she's doing good, but who else does he coach, And the fact that I'd been talking to Kyla for like 3 years because she was working with a coach in New Zealand, and I was like, dude, you're gonna go pro. You're gonna go pro. I know you're gonna go pro. She went to USA's, got like I think eighth 1 year or seventh 1 year, and then the next year she got eighth. And then I think her coach was living here and moved, whatever. She was basically didn't have a coach at the time, and I was like, girl, give me a chance. Let me coach you. I will turn you pro in 1 year. Just give me one shot, and I'll turn you pro. And after she went pro, after that, it was just like all bikini girls reaching out to me, and I still want like the lifestyle mom clients. Like I still want to coach them because I really am passionate about helping them. It's a different feeling. Like I do get a good feeling when seeing, like I got cried. I didn't think I was going to cry when Kyla got her pro card. Like I cried when she got off stage, like a
Saw
pretty
the video
bad
last
cry.
night.
There was literally like boogers coming out of my nose crying.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a couple of tears. Um, and for me, I was like, okay, I love this feeling, but I also love the like, you know, for instance, I'm in my Facebook group this morning. I got a client. She's telling me, how she feels so good. This is the first year after Thanksgiving that she got back on track, and all this. And then I have a competitor that competed a couple weeks ago that is like, oh my god, I look like shit, blah 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 blah. And it's like, dude, you still look freaking amazing. You look better than everybody out there. But I don't think that there's one that I enjoy more than the other. I think they're different in their own rights. I think that coaching competitors for me is a little bit easier because I do have that hard nosed approach where I'm like, oh, you got to fucking shut up and suffer. But with a lifestyle client, I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
how can we change your macros or restructure your program? So it is a
Yeah.
lot more work for me coaching a lifestyle client, but I do enjoy it. Like I thoroughly enjoy problem solving because once we get past that, it's like, they give this such a feeling of gratitude and gratefulness and it's not even that I want that back, but to be able to see that they have that in their life, knowing that I've been in positions where I mean, I don't want to say that I didn't want to be here because that's never crossed my mind in my life ever, but just in a position where I'm like, fucking life sucks right now, dude. Like not being able to find happiness in anything and kind of just still going through the motions because like I said, I couldn't give up on Tara, that she was still there fighting for me every day. So, being able to kind of walk with somebody in that journey and get them past that, it feels damn good. But I didn't choose women. They just chose me.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a pretty similar um, journey through coaching. Like I was coaching a lot of competitors, and then in my head, I had the imposter syndrome. I was like, I'm not Ariel. I'm not them. Like they're gonna want to go to them. Let me just focus on coaching lifestyle people. And I also found that the lifestyle clients that have never been in shape, that you get them in shape for the first time, it means like way more than you can imagine. Because like after so many years bodybuilding, you forget what it's like the first time to get shredded and really like look in the mirror. So I always tell everyone when we get on the call and we're trying to see if we're a good fit to work together, I tell them like, yeah, I grew up fat and I had terrible eating habits. And one day I woke up and I was like, you look like shit. The way that what I'm looking at in the mirror is not what I see in my head. Like, and there's like this huge disconnect. And then I hired a coach and I still struggled. But one day when you wake up and you look in the mirror, there will be a day that you go, oh shit, I do look pretty good. And when that day happens, and it's the first time that's ever happened, it's like mind blowing because I mean everyone else can tell you that you look great and you're looking a little bit thinner or whatever. But when you look in the mirror and you feel it for the first time, it's like mind blowing. And I think that was the
Oh,
thing that I really liked about working with lifestyle clients because I mean I don't know about you, but I can tell when I first sign up somebody, the way they talk, they're very they're a little bit more timid. They're a little bit like, I'm not very confident in myself. They beat themselves up a lot because they've been failing a lot. And then over the course of working together, by the end, they're like, dude, I look sick in the gym. My pump was sick. I look great. Everyone's telling me my jaw's chiseled. My arms look good. And when you see that change in just how they talk, I think that is one of the most rewarding things about coaching.
Dude, it's funny. It's funny that you say that because actually, when you start talking about the pump right now, I still have guy clients, and there's actually a
Mm.
dude that he came to me. He's one of the most successful guy clients that I have. And he came to me, and he had come from a female coach. Him and his wife were working with a female coach, and she had him doing like a ton of cardio, was eating no food, and we got his. He went to the doctor. He found out that he had some hormonal issues, so he got those in. I mean, he's like 45, so he got his hormones kind of fixed, and we got him on a program. And dude, this guy started getting so big that like his he put on one of his like favorite jackets and it ripped down the back, and I was like, oh man, like I was kind of like, oh shit, he's gonna be mad that I ripped his favorite jacket, and he's like wanting to wear it around the house with it ripped down the back. And then the next day he tells me, he's like, bro, I went to go put on my wetsuit and it ripped down the crotch, so sick. And I'm like, bro, like I feeling bad that like your clothes are getting ruined right now, like this doesn't sound like it's good. But the same thing now, he's like he's loving every part of the process. Like we did a bulk and then we went through a cut, and like I'm over here like, okay, let's get you a little bit more shredded. He's like, no, dude, I want to go back to a bulk. I want to put on more muscle. So it's like his mentality is so bought in and loving the process that he's doing everything. And like you said, dude, he's fully bought it. When we first met, he was not when we first met. We started working together. He was getting ready to do a paddleboarding race from Manhattan Beach to Catalina Island. He's done it before, but he was getting ready for that. And after his first like growing, like 20 weeks of growing, he's like, dude, I want to do a bodybuilding show one day. And he completely canceled like all of his like paddleboarding races that had set up. And he's like he probably won't ever step on stage, but he's full blown now. Like, this is my life. This is what I'm doing. And, yeah, dude, it feels good, but it's tough for me getting guys to that point. So I don't know. I don't want to say I gave up on it, but I just felt like, and now I'm marketing to women, so guys aren't really hitting me up as much. And like they said, man, I can't make my content geared towards like, get off the couch, you lazy piece of shit, and then expect women are going to come and buy from me, or let alone want to even talk to me.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. I mean, I just think it's interesting the type of people that you get versus the type of people that I talk to, because a lot of the guys that they're not like that. Most of my guys are not super stubborn. They're like, I'll just do whatever you say. So it's interesting that you get them, but I totally know that there's plenty of those guys out there.
I think also with you though too is a big part of it, and I'm sure you can agree with this. You are a pro. You're an IFBB pro, so
Yeah,
you've gone to the extremes of the extremes. You've walked the walk. I'm not going to put myself down and say just because I haven't gotten the pro card that makes me any different than anybody who has gotten it. But it adds a level of stature. It adds a level of accomplishment for sure. But it definitely adds a level of prestige that I think it would make somebody a little bit more inclined to take your advice, opposed to like, let's say the women, they see me and they're like, this guy's coaching women at the top of the level. My guy clients are probably like, dude, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about with girls. He never even did it himself. Maybe that's my own way of thinking, or maybe
yeah,
it's subconscious, or maybe it's just with the type of content that I'm putting out that I'm attracting more of like that beta type guy. You know what I mean? Because my content is geared towards women, bringing in more of like, dude, I mean, let's call a spade here. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I used to kind of dance around things like that, but it is what it is. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think the world needs both. We need masculinity and femininity, whether you're a man or a woman. We need that balance. So maybe that's the type of guy that I bring along is someone who's a little more, I don't know, I guess timid and
yeah.
soft.
I mean, it is all about the language that you use. Like, people are just receptive to different things. It's just so interesting that there's, the people that I get will talk one way and they receive things a certain way, and then the people that you get, it just kind of shows that there's so many people out there that need to get in shape, and it's really unfortunate that there's so many shitty coaches out there. Like you were talking about that guy that you were just talking about, and he had a previous coach and basically was going no carb and, you know, doing all this dumb shit. And that's, if I get on a call with someone and they're telling me I had an online coach before, and usually they say it was terrible, like 9 out of 10 times they're like, it was bad. Like they don't respond to my messages. They know they're not very invested. The most common problem that I hear is that they didn't respond to my check-in for like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. I'm like, what are you paying them for? Because they're obviously not doing anything, you know? And it's so hard because now they have this terrible experience and you have to be like, I'm not like that. But, you know, how do you say that without being, you know, like full of yourself? But it's like, I'm not like that. You know what I mean? Like, I think that being able to, being availability is the best ability. You know, like you need to be available to answer people's questions. Like if that's what they need the guidance, the support, and, you know, sometimes that self-belief, like being there to talk to them and talk them off a ledge. Like that's, you know, I think that's an important part of coaching, at least in the way that I do it. And if you're not going to respond for 5 days, 5 days later, they don't care anymore. They fucked off for like 5 days. So you didn't do anything for
For
them.
sure. I think
But I have
you
like,
hit something
oh,
on you hit something
go.
on the head, and you had said something about, you know, and I do the same thing on our initial calls to make sure that we're the right fit for the client, you know. So I think possibly, you know, what some of it can come down to is, you know, obviously your delivery is going to be different than mine regardless. We could say the same sentence, but the way you deliver it is going to be 10 times. Possibly maybe the way that I deliver my my communication, it aligns more as a right fit to work with those people or that demographic. You know what I mean? Because it's not just, I don't have just girly girl women clients. You know, I have all different types of women clients, but it seems to be a very common denominator that it is a, you know, a female that's working with me. And I think that's really huge that you said that. And I tell this all the time to people on the call with me, like, you might love the results that I got, Tara, but if you don't love me, and I can't talk to you the way that you need to be talked to, you're never going to get the results, regardless how good of a coach I am, regardless how available I am. If we don't fit, we don't fit, you know. And I think that that's something really huge that I think once a coach can realize that, because once I realized that I can't help everybody, that I do think I became more confident in the people that I can help, you know, and being like, yeah, that coach sucks. I can do better. If you want to give me the chance, cool. If you don't, I mean, obviously not like that, you know what I mean? But, you know, I have no problem being like, dude, that sucks that you went through that. Maybe that wasn't the right fit for you. Maybe that 5 day response time works for some people. Like, to be honest, bro, like, you know, when working with Ariel, the check in responses are really short, you know, and that works for me. I don't need,
Yeah.
you know, a 5, 7 minute response. But for my clients, I'll do like a 10-minute Loom video and they absolutely love it. If
Yeah.
I were to send them one response that said, looks good, talk to you next week, it would be like, what the fuck? But for me, that was good enough. You know, I know what that meant.
Yeah.
I know coming from Ariel, he's saying looks good, talk to you next week. That means, bro, you're doing exactly what you should be doing. Don't change a damn thing. You're killing it. You look great. Everything's going where we need to go, but in a much shorter form, you know?
Yeah. 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 It's funny, man. I mean, that's basically what I tell people on the call. Like, they always ask me like, what's a disqualifier if for somebody on the call? I was like, well, if you already sound like you know it all and you think that you're going to tell me how it goes, that's not going to work. If you're not a good communicator, then that's probably not going to work. And if you're an asshole, if you're an asshole or if I'm an asshole and we just don't get along, we shouldn't work together, no matter if I can get you those results or not. Because if we don't like working together, then it's not going to be a good experience for you or me or whoever, you know, whoever doesn't like each other. And so that's part of it. Like, I think part of finding a coach for someone, like if you're anybody looking for a coach, you got to figure out, what do you want? What type of relationship with the coach do you want? And who do you get along with? Because some people are going to have shorter answers. Some people are going to do emails. Some people send Loom videos like we do and just talk for 7 to 10 minutes about whatever we're looking at, you know. And you got to figure out, like, what do you want to get out of the coaching, you know? And um I think sometimes people just get kind of caught up in what they see on Instagram. They're like, oh, there's a cool transformation, maybe I like them, or they can get me results. But at the end of the day, you two just would not click. And I think
And
it's important to kind of figure out about your coach.
some people don't even want to see those 8-minute Bloom videos. You know what I mean? Some
Oh
people are like,
yeah.
dude, just get on with it. You know what I mean? Like I have clients
Yeah.
that they don't even like you talk about communication. That kind of sparks something I want to talk about that on my coaching call tonight. Communication, but some of my clients they don't even respond to the chicken video. They literally
Oh
they won't
yeah.
even be like, okay, cool, or like they don't even like it. They don't like, just. I'm like, damn, like did I piss you off? Did I offend you? You know, but that's
Yeah.
it's different strokes for different folks. Some people are super busy and they hear that message and they're like, okay, I skipped my water 3 days in a row. I need to get back on track with my water. I'll check in next week. I saw my message, you know.
Yeah.
But like you said, some people
Yeah.
just people are respond different, and it is interesting to see, you know. And that's something cool that I think people like us, like coaches, we get to be involved with is not just like the physical changes within people, but also like the mental and how people respond to certain situations, how people have even just like a real versus a perceived threat to their program, how some person can look at getting a flat tire as like, oh my god, this is the worst thing ever, and somebody else looks at a flat tire like, sick, I don't have to go work for an hour and a half and I can catch up on emails and make sure I get my, just having that different mindset. It's crazy to see, and I think it makes it my job more fun and more challenging to learn different people and learn how they tick and figure out, like you said, how to get them from A to Z, because we know that it's going to be all crazy up and down, but figuring out the way to eventually make them hit that goal. Like I had a client that it took us like over a year for her to lose like 25 pounds, whereas like average I would say my clients lose about 4 to 6 pounds a month. So I would say about 4 to 6 months that should have been right around where she lost that amount of weight, and it took her a year. But I felt more pride in that transformation than in the girl that lost 30 pounds in 16 weeks, because I knew not only, I mean, the other girl had to work hard too, but I knew how much like she had to actually change her way of thinking and looking at situations in order to reach that goal. And like to me, that was like one of the transformations that I'm probably most proud of. We don't work together anymore, which sucks, but definitely one of the transformations I was most proud of.
No, I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
like
Like it's funny, like you have those transformations that are more mental and they're not something that you could visually see. And if you put up the stats, it probably wouldn't be super impressive, but the way that they are just completely changed. And it's so hard to like communicate that through some content or something like that, to be like, this person changed and they're so much more confident and they have a better outlook on life and a better relationship with food. It's like, how can you really like get that message across? And I think it's tough.
dude, I
um
think a way you could do maybe do like a you could maybe do like it would be hard to get people to do this, but you could have people do like a video application. You know what I mean? And be like, hey, so part of working with me is that you got to film this 30-second video and talk about what you're not okay with, blah 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 blah. Once you reach your goal, we're going to put it side by side with your winning video of you hitting all your goals and showing who you were before opposed to now. I mean, it'd be tough to get people to do that, because I mean, it's hard
yeah.
enough to get someone to send you a progress photo when they're not feeling confident.
Yeah.
Like, hey, go put your bikini on, go stand outside in the sunlight and take a photo. They're like, can I wear
Yeah.
shorts?
Yeah, that's funny. That's actually an idea that I just had during like Black Friday and everything. So, some of the last signups, I was like, "Hey, just record a video. Tell me all the things that you're unhappy with, and the things that you're looking forward to, and the things that you want to change." And at the end, we'll just compare them. Um, but I have one last question for you. How do you define success?
I think success is going to be different from person to person, but you're not asking me what other people define success as. You're asking me what I
Hmm.
define success as. And I think I would compare success in general to just a fitness journey. Um, and I look at your fitness career as successful. I'm sure you probably look at it like, man, I wish I would have, won a show or whatever it may be. Um, but I look at that as a successful career in bodybuilding. Whereas to when I look at my own bodybuilding career, there could be people that are like, bro, you want to overall, you've been doing it for this many years. Um, I think for me, honestly, I think success can change from day to day. Because for me, success can mean just sticking to like what I said I was going to do. I guess that's being integral. Um, but I think ultimately for me, like being successful is really just following through with the promises that you make to yourself, that doesn't necessarily mean it needs to have the outcome that you desired, but just to know that like I turned over every stone, I did everything I said I was going to do, and that's how I'm kind of starting to look at my bodybuilding career. I know early on there were some things I wish I could have done differently, but within the last, I would say, 4 years, I can honestly say that I've been doing everything I possibly can do to get a pro card. And if, my back is just too tattooed or genetically it's just not there, I can now walk away from that journey and say it was successful. I may not have gotten the outcome that I wanted, but I did everything that I needed to do and I did what I said I was going to do and I finished the job. Um, to me, that's successful. And I think the biggest thing that I struggle with is when I do compromise my integrity and I don't do the things that I tell myself I'm going to do. That leads me to carry on a feeling of, I don't want to say being inadequate, but I know I'm not being successful. Like, for instance, this morning I ticked off all my boxes, but part of one of my boxes, I still send out cold DMs. I sent out 25 DMs and not a single person responded. 3 days ago, when I wasn't sending the DMs, I would have looked at today as being unsuccessful because nobody responded. But today, getting on this call with you at 10:30, I literally every single hour block I've ticked off. I did it. I did it. I did it. Of course, you want to be intentful with the things that you're doing. But to me, success is measured in just doing the things you say you're going to do, even when you don't want to do them.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's kind of similar to what I would say if someone asked me off the top of my head. I think being successful is being who you say you are. Like, do you embody all of the things that you say you value? Because if you're not embodying those things, then how can you be successful? Like, the things that you value, your morals, whatever it is, like whether it's being a good coach, a good husband, a good family person, a friend, are you there for other people? Like, whatever it is that you value, maybe it's money and being really good at your job or whatever it is. If you're not embodying that type of person, like the way that that person should be, then you're clearly not successful. And like you said, you're not always going to get the result that you're looking for. But if you are the person that you say you are, you will have the supreme confidence that, I mean, I just am that, I'm just doing that. And that's what success really is. Because if you can embody everything that you value, then, I mean, what else is there to do?
For sure. No, definitely, for sure. I agree. Big facts.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you, Ash? We'll have to have you on again. I had some more questions for you, but it's already been an hour. So where can people find you?
Find me every Sunday at 7 p.m. at In and Out on Beach, and you'll find me on Instagram, Team Form Fit Coaching. I am on Facebook as well. I don't know if I'm private on Facebook. You can find me by my name, Ash Kholghy. I don't go on TikTok too much. I am starting YouTube up, but I haven't put any content out there yet, so you might not want to click on my YouTube because you'll probably be very disappointed in it. I want to make sure that there's some decent content on there. But for now, my main spot you can find me is on Instagram, Team Form Fit Coaching. I'm just like AJ, where I'm very available. So anytime you want to talk, shoot the shit. My DMs are always open, even if it's not to sign up with me as a coach. I probably have like 50 bikini pros that have other coaches that talk to me on a consistent day-to-day basis. And I love what I do. So if you do have questions and you're scared of hiring a coach, or you want to talk to me about what you should look for in a coach, or any of those things, you can come to me and have a conversation, and it will be I have zero expectation of signing you as a client and just figuring out any way that I could possibly serve you. So Instagram, Team Form Fit Coaching.
Boom. Well, thanks for being on the show, man. We'll have to have you on again so I can ask you the rest of these questions.